good morning. Good morning, everybody. I hope you have your coffee. What are you drinking today? That's what I would like to know. I'm still working my way through these new beans that I got like 2 pounds of beans. So I'm gonna be drinking this for a little while. But good morning, Lou. I made some new creamer. So I got some homemade, it's coconut cream with, I don't know, I put all sorts of stuff in it. Good morning, William. I put some cocoa in there this morning. I don't know. It felt like a little chocolate. Felt like a little chocolate in my coffee. Thank you, William. Hot tea with milk and sugar. That's the Brit coming out in you, Lou. I know it. It's just, yeah, you're an American. Throw that tea in the river. Just kidding. I'm glad to be here with all of you on this lovely Tuesday morning. We have a great guest today. Someone who I have 1,000, maybe 2,000 questions for. We might not get through all the questions on the show. I know it's 2 hours, but I got a lot of questions. But before I bring my guest in, I want to say, of course, we are gearing up for Path of the Pale Rider issue number 7. It's going to be launching. Okay, but why? Leave it to Chad to derail my entire train of thought. Because coffee. We aren't what? You'll have to explain. If you're going to derail my whole opening, you have to actually talk in complete sentences. Anywho, we're gearing up for issue number 7, Chad. And it's launching July 18th. I hope you show up for the launch party. We're going to have a ton of fun. I'm going to be there. I think Karen Needlemeyer will also be there. I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to figure that out. We aren't gearing up for issue 7? Why aren't you gearing up for issues? Well, you're not gearing. It's my gear. It's my gears. I'm grinding my own gears. Thank you. And if you didn't see, I dropped a cover yesterday for issue 7, one of the variant covers by Terry Parr. So if you didn't see this, you're seeing it now. This is the gorgeous cover by Terry Parr. I never thought we would have a pink cover for Path. I'm not really kind of your pink girl, but this is, I think it's turned out gorgeous. She's gorgeous. Once you read issue 7, you'll know what the heck this is all going down. So you don't see anything ever. Well, are you under a rock, Chad? I mean, I could post every day for 6 times a day, and then everybody would tell me to shut up. So I have been posting. I have been. We're gearing up for issue 7. In fact, I did my Kickstarter video, and I did it the same day that my guest is also a podcaster. And so I was working on the video when I was on his podcast, which was really funny. And so he's back, and now the video is done. So I want to give you guys a little preview of the video. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Don't worry. I just want to show you the beginning because for reasons, and then we'll talk about it.
Hi, I'm Laurie Calcaterra, writer and creator of A Banana Peel. Really? Take 2. Hi, I'm Laurie Calcaterra, writer and creator of Path of the Pale Rider. There is a link in this video that will take you to a hidden reward on this campaign. So pay attention. Returning backers.
And that's all I'm going to show you. There is actually a link in the video that will take you to a hidden reward that you cannot get to from the main page. I love it. I love playing games. You know me. The whole riddles and everything is such a fun time for me. And when Kickstarter was like, you can send links for a secret reward, I was like, say less. I'm going to do this. So when the campaign goes live, you'll have to watch the video carefully in order to find that link. And there's only 10. There's only 10 available. So good luck, and hopefully the odds are ever in your favor. Facebook shows me stuff from 5 days ago. Yeah, it's the algorithm. Chad, you just had to comment on something, and then all my stuff will show up in your newsfeed. That's how it works, right? I think. So enough about me. Enough about me. Let's bring in my guest for today. It's the gentleman by the name of Jason Dehart. If you don't know him, I think you also have been under a rock like Chad. Because Jason is a writer, he is a PhD, and he also has a very Your podcast go. I mean, like, how many episodes do you have of your podcast? Hello, let's back up.
Right.
Hello, Jason. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm so glad to have you.
The piano. That's great.
You like my piano? Yeah, it's not there.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Um,
doing a Pink Floyd shout out here.
yes.
But you just can't see my kitchen sink. That's the big plan.
Oh, darn. I always tease people. I'm like, Elton John will be here later. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. It would be cool. Like digital little, somebody should work on that.
I'll work on that for sure. I think I could do it. Yeah.
I think you could. I think you could.
Just randomly have Elton John sitting at the piano next week.
Yes. And musical guest.
Yes. That's funny. Hey, Cameron, good morning. I'm so excited you're here. Cameron actually got to taste the new hot sauce that I didn't have available on the last campaign because he's special. And he asked very nicely for an extra bottle of hot sauce because he got a big swag. And so I put one in there. So he got to taste the Carolina Reaper before y'all did because he's special.
I am also looking forward to Path. I'm looking forward to that. I love the banana peel bit. That was fun.
So, if anybody knows that has run a Kickstarter, the video is so hard because you have to try and be concise, but you have to try and catch people's attention and be outside the box. You really only get like 1 minute, maybe 2. And you're lucky if they go all the way to 2 minutes. They usually click off after 10 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's why I do shenanigans in my videos, is to try to keep people to watch through the whole thing, because if they see all the different stuff that we do a lot of stuff. So it's hard to get it all out in 30 seconds, right? Hey, Andrea.
Yeah.
Good morning. So
hello. Yeah, it's I live the life of a teacher, so I have to get attention like 4 times a day. I'm like, or 3 times really. I teach 3 classes during the school year, so and you could just see like the algorithms dropping around the room. You know, if I'm not on that day, it has to be pretty quick.
So then, what method do you use for that? Do you use big movements, like loud words, certain words, key phrases to get them to pay attention and tune in? Like,
I try to treat it like every day is its own episode, like it's its own podcast. So I'll go in and I'll be like, welcome to today's episode, everybody. Sometimes I'll introduce a musical guest that isn't there. Not that different from what we've done here today, actually. Not that different. And I'll throw in like a dad joke or something usually that I've seen on Facebook or one of the online spaces, and we'll try to put up like an interesting image or something like that. But I aim for quirky, and I think I do quirky well. I think I do awkward pretty well. So
we're in the same boat.
It's a superpower.
Right. Do something awkward, falling down, take the edge off. But that also gives you the air of unpredictability. How do you say the word? My brain
Unpredictability.
Thank you. I was like, my brain derailed halfway through that word.
Spontaneity.
Yes, because if you're doing shenanigans like me in the first 10 seconds, what else is coming in this video, right?
Yeah. I also love our aesthetic here, being surrounded by coffee beans. I was voted most likely to need more coffee, just because I'm always drinking coffee when I'm teaching. And my first class starts at 7:45 in the morning with teenagers that went to bed like an hour ago, and now they're back at school. What's that?
In person?
Oh yeah, in person. Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Dressed, pressed. I don't know. People around here where I teach, they get up early and they're like, get these kids to school.
Okay, so where are you in the country?
I am in North Carolina.
Okay. People in
Yeah.
North Carolina like to wake up, apparently. Oh.
I guess, and so I get a lot of people being like, "Hey, you're kind of like a lot in the morning." I'm like, "Well, if I'm not, you know."
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
everybody
A
goes back to
fellow educator.
Joan Dart. Any relation?
Probably somewhere down the line. Somewhere
Yeah,
down the line. I've been to Indiana, but I don't know if I have family there.
interesting. Grey Wolf was like, I got your number.
That's right. That's right.
He
The
did not
sixth
say
degree.
whether he liked this person or not. Say that
True, true.
much. All right. So take us back. I want to. So your area of expertise is actually really interesting. So first of all, tell people what that is.
Literacy. So I'm a literacy person. I was an English teacher, am an English teacher. Shout out to AMLE. I'm currently wearing the shirt, the Association of Middle Level Education. I was a middle grades teacher for 8 years. I taught eighth grade for 8 years. And then I got this amazing offer to go do a PhD with a fellowship and like a graduate assistantship. So they basically sort of paid me to go to school and teach
Cool.
classes. And I worked with this really cool guy named Sturge Bitzakis who did a dissertation about people that read comics and become lifelong readers as a result.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I got to examine like comics and film and media and how all these things connect people with reading. So, Joe was cool. This is
That's
good.
good.
This is good.
His brother Don was
Y-
also a principal. Okay, so the whole family. See, you're all.
Yeah, yeah.
It's in your genes.
That's right. That's right. Somewhere in the denim. There it is.
Good morning, Red. So okay, so you actually wrote a book.
Mhm, mhm. I did. I'll hold it up. Would you
Yeah,
like me to hold it up?
yeah. I was gonna say
Yeah.
now it. Yeah, the green screen. Here, let me do this because I pulled it up and it's on Amazon. And so here
Mhm.
it is, everybody. It's building critical literacy and empathy with graphic novels. So I thought
Yes,
this was
indeed.
super interesting. In fact, I went and checked out the sample. I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but for people that are not watching and they're just listening, this first paragraph was really interesting to me. Whereas perhaps one of the most prominent narratives among comic fans is the story of childhood collection, carefully curated over time, which is then tossed into the garbage by an older family member. And I feel like this is common.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
not just comic books, it's like anything that's considered childhood collectibles, like baseball cards too, right?
Yes, yeah, out to the yard sale with you.
Right. So this kid stuff story positions comics as readily trashable. And that's kind of how they used to be. Sold at
Mhm.
the grocery store and the spinner rack, you would fold them up and stick them in your back pocket, pass it around to your friends, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
how comics kind of started, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rip the covers off, send them off
Yeah.
somewhere, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Coupons, cut out the coupon, ship it in to get your sea monkeys.
Yeah. Oh, the sea monkeys. Yeah, I did get a few cool action figures that way, but that's
Yeah.
a whole other thing. Yeah.
And then another common story is the comic that contains, again, adult themes and content borrowed from young hands by a dutiful adult. And this is still true to this day, too. I mean, we talked about Kickstarter. And when you go on there, a majority of the high number, like a lot of backers, big dollar amounts, are explicit material.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting that way too, that is the case, you know? And it's strange how stories of both simplicity and complexity can be applied to a single medium. And this is what gets me. This is what I personally love about comics because you can have a comic book about a dog, I mean, like Peanuts. It's like Snoopy
Mhm.
versus Woodstock, with the Red Baron. And it's just a dog flying a doghouse with many layers, but it's a dog flying a doghouse like an airplane. Or you can have Who Watches the Watchmen, which is a social commentary about, humanity. And then once people become this superhuman, they lose their humanity. And are they superhuman anymore? And so comics as a medium, I think is so unique because it can tackle all of those things and be for any genre or age group, or and it can be interpreted into movies, it can be adapted into animation or video games.
Mm-hmm.
Comic books is the starting place. So again, I know these stories well as a longtime comic reader, as well as a passionate educator who has negotiated the question of whether or not comics counted in the English language arts classroom. And my answer is yes. And that to me, I was like, that's so cool. You know what I mean?
Well, thanks.
That just sums up like indie comics just in existence, like how comics exist, the history, the progression. It's been interesting. It's an interesting ride for comics. So I love that you're able to not only find that, but you use that in the classroom. And so talk about how have you used comics to teach in the classroom? And 8th grade is an interesting time, people. It's like you're not really a full human yet.
It is. You're on your way. You're on your way.
Right.
7th grade is a whole other thing. I don't even remember my 7th grade year. It's like the hormone bath. It's all the things. What is happening? I don't know. But yeah, I started using comics sort of toward the end of the year because as a teacher, you're always under pressure to the cover standards, whatever that means. You're supposed to cover standards and get through all this material in a pretty short amount of time. Currently in North Carolina. Oh, yeah, I bet that was to the person where it was night. Sorry,
Yes.
I got
Yeah.
sidetracked there. But you have this kind of space at the end of the year after the kids have taken their big state test where it's like,
Yes.
what are you going to do? Are you
Yeah.
going to go watch a movie or what? So I started having students my second year teaching make comics. And it turned into this very popular activity. I was like, this is
Cool.
engaging. Kids love this. I still have students that keep in touch with me and that have talked about it. And so I started thinking, well, why am I saving this to the end of the year? If I can address so many standards, if I can, which basically is using anything in English language arts literacy to do a thing is basically what I'm after. Why don't I do this earlier? And so I started introducing it earlier and earlier. And around the same time, I started noticing that in our school book fairs, graphic novels, comics started showing up for like middle grades readers. So there was some connection there. Robert Downey Jr. was playing Iron Man in the movies. And so I had kids talking about comics characters and becoming more familiar with kind of comics general, comics large, the Marvel versus DC world. And so it kind of grew from there of expanding more. But it was a slow build because it had been a while since I had read comics. I spent time
Yeah.
in like a master's degree in teaching, reading all the things that the kids should read, all the classic of classic materials and all of that sort
Like
of stuff. And let me tell you, the kids love it. Let me tell you, they do not. They do not. Sometimes you might get like story that connects,
that's
but
funny. Good morning, Irene.
yeah. Yeah.
So what were
So
you
it was
reading
kind of that
though when you're
connection.
studying comics, like the history of comics, I guess? Where do you start? What's on the list of things that you should read?
I think you should read what captivates you. I mean, there are people that talk about like the canon, the go-to comics, and there's American Born Chinese, Gene Luen Yang, there's Mouse, Art Spiegelman, there's Watchmen, Alan Moore, all of those kind of things, Persepolis. Um, but for me, reading comics started as a kid. I got sick and was in the hospital for a while, and my parents bought me some DC comics. And from there, I was reading Batman, seeing Batman on the screen, uh, getting into the early 90s with all of the cool things that were happening there. Maybe I should have let my kid be the background.
We like to see a good collection.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in this case, you'd see like just the kitchen sink itself, but you know,
Also cool. I
uh,
don't know, for reasons.
yeah, Yeah, absolutely. It's a metaphor, people. It's a
That's
metaphor.
it. That's it.
Um,
You gotta think deep with this one.
that's right. The cleansing of literacy and the suds of culture, pop culture suds.
There
There
you
you go.
go. I like how
Yeah,
you tied that
market that.
together. That was impressive.
We think on our feet when we can.
That's right.
Um, but that was kind of the story for me of getting in. And what I found from teaching kids is that it's not necessarily one book that gets
Yeah.
kids reading or anybody reading. It's the thing that stands out to you. I have kids when I first started teaching in the high school setting that really liked Colleen Hoover. It's not my thing. It's totally
Mm.
not my thing. But if you like, romance, or if you like a particular kind of story, if horror is your thing, then there are all sorts of places to go. Plug Path of the Pale Rider for the horror
Yay.
comic.
There we
Yeah.
go. Probably not for eighth grade.
Yeah, but that also
Me?
speaks to like the age group, right?
Yeah.
Because I was reading stuff that was more advanced. I mean, I remember reading The Crow not too long after eighth grade. It was like early high school. So,
That's true.
yeah, there's flexibility.
All right, Lou, is it me? Is it me glitching or is it Jason? Tell me, Lou. I can't tell who it is because I don't have a ticker. So, Lou is usually my sounding board. I'm like, who's glitching? I can't tell who.
That was our commercial break.
Yeah, oh yeah. We were just pausing for drama, where it's dramatic pause, in there. But
That's right.
okay. So in class, when these eighth
Mhm.
graders are in class, and you're going to assign them something, are you telling them that they need to research or read? You think it was Jason? Okay, thank you, Lou. Because if it's me, I want to adjust stuff. You know what I mean? But so,
Yep.
do you give them like a list that they can read from? Are you assigning reading before they go make their comics, or how does that whole assignment work?
Usually, for an assignment like that, it's kind of like a choice of different materials. So this year, I collaborated with my school librarian. We wrote a grant. We got more comics for the library through the grant. And we actually had like a book tasting day where students got to
Cool.
go to the library and go from table to table. And we arranged them somewhat by genre. Or general topic, and students got to go around and and
Thank
pick
you, Lou.
what they were interested in.
Yeah, we'll hire you later. Hire. Anyway, but that's cool. A book tasting for comics, and then they go through and they kind of pick what they're looking for, and then
Yeah, what connects? Yeah.
interesting. I did something similar. When was it? I think it was in photography. I went to art
Ah,
school, um,
mhm.
which is hilarious because now I'm into writing and not art. It's great.
It is an art. It is an art.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you. But I mean, I do art in different mediums. I just like the science of putting together panels on a page and like humans and perspective, and
Mhm.
it's such a it's something that you have to work on and develop that skill. And I don't have another 10 years. I want to tell my story now. I ain't getting any younger, right? So I hire the talented people to do the thing, and then I just tell the story. Yeah. So when I was in art school, we had to pick a photographer. We would research their work and then try to emulate, their style, but also, you know, in context of our own style. Try to, what their perspective is or what their style was. Was it black and white? Was it color over, you know, and I think that's interesting to do with comics. And doing a tasting, I think we should do a tasting as adults. Like,
Oh, yeah.
why can we not do that in a comic book store where you can just go in and touch all and take it out and have sample copies to look at it, you know, and be like, these are the
Mhm.
different categories. Find your new favorite read.
Yeah. Well, and when people want to be critical of comics in any way, that's kind of my thing. I'm like, hey, but what have you read? What are you basing
Yeah.
that on? Did you hear that on some like pundit somewhere who said this? Um, so Yeah, there's a wide range from Howard Cruz on down to Howard the Duck. We got a lot going on. We got a lot going on.
Hilarious, by the way.
Thank you, thanks.
Yeah, so that's I feel like we should do that. And especially as someone like yourself who's kind of um talking to as many people. Okay, this is one of the other things I wanted to talk about with you.
Mhm,
Um
cool.
so for I'm going to drop the link in the chat for everybody. This is Jason's website with all these
Uh-huh.
interviews, right?
hmm
And there's a
This is where the
podcast link.
podcast started. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's just, most recent, but let me show you recent posts. Where's all the rest? Because I clicked on all posts. I did this earlier, now I forget. But these just go on forever. So as a podcaster, you have
hmm
had, do you even number your episodes? This is kind of what I was alluding to when I brought you in. Do
I
you
kind of
know?
stopped. Yeah, just because when I would get someone on who needed an episode out sooner, then it turned into a whole renumbering thing.
Yeah,
Because what I'll do is, summertime especially, I'll do a couple a day, bank them, have them ready, things like that. And then what I found was I would be numbering stuff, and then someone would say, "Well, my Kickstarter's out right now," or "My book is coming out next week." And I then had to go back and renumber. So I stopped numbering at a certain point and started just having more fun with some of the labeling conventions and stuff like that.
hmm I mean, this goes on forever. Like, I was like, I don't even know what episode you're on. And I see you release episodes multiple times a week, like
hmm
three or
hmm
four, right? A week.
Yeah, yeah, but they're pretty short episodes. So, like, in most cases, I'll chat with people for around 20 to 25 minutes. I think that's kind of the educator attention span in me. That's like, let's put something out that's brief. That's kind of this short piece. Sometimes I'll have people go longer, which is totally fine. Um,
It's me. Sorry.
but there, oh no, no, that
I'm
it's
always
it's
like, I got a lot of moving
it's
parts.
lovely conversation.
Yeah.
But this is where the podcast started. I actually went to an author signing with a friend of mine, and she was having her book signed. And I was thinking this was like 2017, 2016, somewhere in there. I was like,
Wow.
why don't I connect with the authoring community in some way? Why don't I share books more? I was working on my PhD at that time. And so I started doing written interviews,
Yeah.
being sort of a shy person starting out. And then once I'd done so many of those, I had started helping host some school visits and do some different things online because in the pandemic, we were all doing stuff online all the time.
Right.
And shortly after the pandemic, or shortly after things opened back up, I started doing more of like the audio format podcast, and then I started having people say, "Well, can you share the video since we're already videoing?" And I was like, "Sure, I can put that on YouTube and see what happens."
Yeah.
And yeah, I think episode 860 something, 860 dropped today, something like that.
Man, nuts, you
Uh,
guys. We're at episode 180 of this show. And
180,
I was
180. I
like,
love it.
oh, I do such a. He's like, I'm on episode like 800 and bajillion. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I don't do things halfway. I don't know.
I noticed.
Like I'm either all in, like all to the wall, or I'm just not doing it. So I guess that's kind of the vibe. But I also have lots of people that are willing to come on, that want to chat. I feature scholars. I interviewed my first professional wrestler yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Eric Academia, first professional wrestler that I've had on, so that episode will be coming soon.
Cool.
Um, she was the first female graduate of the Palmetto Wrestling Academy, which I think is
Mm,
just awesome. And that's, part of what you get to share by kind of showcasing other folks is the things that they do and the amazing stuff that they
yeah.
break down for other people. So It's a good life. It's a good life. I actually have a talk with or a written interview with Tim Levins that I need to put on here
Yeah.
sometime soon too.
I mean, you guys, you see, I'm still scrolling. This is insane. And this is what I think is so impactful. You have talked to so many creators, and a lot of these, I haven't heard of hardly any of these, right? Which is amazing that there's so many creators out there that would love to, find more readers and find, like you can have a connection. This is almost like it's a catalog of all these amazing creators and works. It's like you are almost, I don't know, I would say not even almost, you are for sure a historian.
Aw.
You are documenting comic book history and oral history and in written history in a medium that is deemed as either not worthy sometimes or trashable. So this is so interesting to me, all of these creators on here. And if you've seen while I'm scrolling, you guys, there's incredible variety and
Mhm. Mhm.
genres, and just it's amazing. So this is
But
what I say is like, how do you pick from this what to read and what to suggest to people? Have you read all of these things?
I do, yeah. I
Oh
don't
my
have people on
gosh.
that I haven't checked out in some way or other. I mean, that one right there, Christian Herrera, was actually one of the first indie people that I connected with in comics because, there's so much out there to try to tap into. And I actually have his most recent, I was going to showcase some folks.
Yeah, show me.
Um, we call them myths. I just got this from him at Heroes Con. So a
Ooh,
great indie book as well, just to check out there. And he signed it for me, so very nice. Um, but yeah, it would
what?
feel disingenuous to me to have someone on that I at least haven't sampled.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I've read the entire work or the entire work of this person, but I'm at least familiar with them. I know what they do, that kind of thing. I had you on, and your Kickstarter was the first one that I backed. That's right.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
incredible to me that someone with um like yourself who interviews so many people, that I was your first Kickstarter. I'm humbled and it feels great for me that you found a new place that you can get indie, because of me being
Yeah.
on your show. But there's a lot of good stuff on there if you know what to look for. Again, you gotta
Yeah.
scroll past all the boobs.
True, true. Yeah. Um,
So,
the I had heard of Kickstarter. I'd heard of like crowdfunding spaces. Sturge, my friend Sturge had backed a couple through I think another platform, and I just wasn't as familiar with where to start. And then I heard about your
yeah.
book, and I thought, well, this sounds really cool. And so I made the commitment. I signed on. But yeah, I try to be familiar with who I'm talking to, and I don't have people on, and I'm like, so who are you? Tell us
Yeah.
your thing. What
Yeah.
what are- what are your 3 books? I'm sure there are people that do that, but I try not to get people in and be like, okay, thanks for coming. Who are you? Um, while we're
That's
talking
always
about,
funny. I've had people where I've gone on their show and they're like, "We need more Old West," and I was like, "No, We're not an Old West." They're like, "You're not. You're a Western." I was like, "We're not Old West, though. We're future dystopian West." I was like,
yes.
"I hate to call you out on your show. I sent you a PDF. No."
Now I've occasionally given the wrong credit to somebody too, because I try to, if people have a similar name and they've worked in comics, I've made that mistake, and that's always kind of
Yeah.
like I should have taken that extra minute. But we're human. We're human.
Yeah.
Um, I was going to showcase a few other comics
Yeah.
from my
Yes.
recent collection. Good Trouble Comics,
Let's see.
Andrew Aiden's books,
Oh, I'm trying to
some
make you get hold,
nonfiction
please.
stuff.
There we go. All right. What's
There
this
we
one?
are. Andrew Aiden, Good Trouble Comics, right here. He's currently crowdfunding a book that benefits the Appalachian region with Hurricane Helene. It's actually
Oh
like the
gosh.
story of hurricane survivors.
It's just weird timing with it and just all the flooding that just happened in Texas.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of floods recently. I'm not okay with this.
yeah. A lot of floods. So books can be a space to support and get people's stories out there, which I think is at least something that can be done. Not working for
Yeah.
the government in that way, at least not directly. So
Yeah.
I don't work for the government
No.
directly because I like my soul.
Yeah.
But books I'm good with.
Jason
Books
and
I'm
I
good
had a
with.
conversation about this too, how we're both like, yeah, the government is,
Yeah.
doesn't matter which side, you're all terrible.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, once you read so much, you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
George Orwell was right. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. How many times do I have to read Fahrenheit 451 out loud? Do you want me to read it again
oh
for you,
yeah,
Ben? 1984?
love that one. I love Fahrenheit 451. We could go down a whole Ray Bradbury side spiral here of comics, and he
Yes.
he loved comics as well. But I've got a couple of other books that I'll showcase as we chat about
Cool.
stuff. Yeah,
What was I gonna say? I forget. Let's talk about something else.
it works. It totally works.
It'll come back.
I
It'll come back
derailed you.
later. It'll come back later. So the
I
website
distracted you with comics. That's what I did.
it's exactly what happened. Let me drop the link to the website so you guys can go peruse around at
Yes,
your
peruse.
leisure. You like to
And
peruse?
also sometimes creators are more comfortable sharing in writing than
Yes.
in like audio or video. Sometimes there's a language barrier, or sometimes there's a shyness factor. So that's just a way to showcase people that don't necessarily feel comfortable jumping into a Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as a writer, you wouldn't expect that you would have to be on camera as much as
Mhm.
you really are.
Yeah.
And I have people on my team, like I have people that are comfortable coming on camera. My editor loves to come on camera. My penciler and inker will come on camera. My colorist, he will not come on camera. He doesn't want to. And so sometimes it's just outside of comfort level. And what I like about the written stuff is you can write it and you could take a break and you can rewrite it. You can go back, you know what I mean? You can edit it. A lot of
Mhm.
times on these live streams, you say stuff out loud and you're like, wait, that's not what I meant. Take it back.
Yeah. I, I I was doing a chat with somebody yesterday. They were asking me some questions to put together a proposal, and I just said, you might want to send this to me because sometimes, like the writing process, I can go back and I can add things. But
Yeah,
when you say something out loud, I'm like, should I have just said things? Should I have used a stronger word than things, elements, facets? I don't know.
yeah,
So you get your best draft possible version sometimes that way.
yeah, I agree. And then you let someone else read it.
That's right.
Yeah. Did
And I
she
try not to read my stuff again, personally.
really?
There's just something, yeah, there's something weird about it. Now, if it's like an interview with somebody, then I'll read it. But if I publish something like the intro you read, I
Yeah.
hadn't looked at in a while, just because it feels weird. I always feel like, could I go back and do that? Could I retake that? That kind of stuff. But and maybe I've
That's
just spent so much time with it too.
yeah, but that's just the creative mindset is because you're always growing and getting better at your craft. And so I don't know how
Hmm.
many times I have gone back and just slightly nudged previous issues. And so like this is a common thing where I'll put out the PDF link on the Kickstarter for the backers. And so they can go grab it whenever they want to, right? But like then I go back and I'm rereading stuff and I'm like, oh, found an error. Like there's a cross bar I where there's not supposed to be. I'm like, dang it. And so I have to go fix it. I have to fix it because I have to. But then that changes the link. And so every now and again, I'll get a message through Kickstarter that's like, hey, do you, I went to go reread issue 4 and it won't download because I fixed something in issue 4. So I just sent it to him again, but that's just the creative thing, I think. Even my first artist on the series, Marco DeFio, I
Mm.
have a banner that I take with me to Comic Cons, and it's Jude with Big James, right, roaring in the background. That's from issue 1. And Marco and I are in the same area. So a lot of times, yeah, exactly. A lot of times we're at a Comic Con together and he'll walk up and he'll be like, I would change this, and this about that that you have on your banner. And I was like, no, you're not. Like, you're not going to change anything. Like, it's perfect the way it is. But that's just our creative mind is like, I can do that better now. Should I?
Mm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's, people work toward a dissertation for 4 years or more. And
Gosh.
that's one of the things with a dissertation is you put it out and then very often it's the thing you don't want to look at because your work grows from there. So it's kind of funny. You spend all this time, you work through committee, you have people that approve it. But the dissertation, people think of it sometimes as like, this is the ultimate, I will publish this thing. And then it becomes like the first step. So,
Isn't that
uh,
crazy? 4 years of work, and you're like, nah, I don't want to ever read it again.
well, and it's also a dissertation. So, unless I tried to write mine in a way that was kind of readable and engaging, but there are certain things you have to do and conventions you have to meet that make it a little less fun to read, like repeating yourself a lot.
You do? You have to repeat yourself a
Yeah.
lot in a dissertation? Why?
Yes.
Why is that a thing?
Uh, Because there are like 4 or 5 chapters depending, and you have people that will read like one of those chapters, and so there are
Mm,
certain things you say in each chapter. And there's also like front loading language of like in the next section I will blah blah blah.
yeah.
So there are some of those kind of pieces that just guide an academic audience through, but that's also like it's writing in any space. There are those little conventions that you play with, and sometimes you can uh, push back on. And there's been a dissertation in comics format too.
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Unflattening by Nick Susanis is a dissertation in comic book form. So if you this is another thing. If people want to say that comics are for kids, I'm like, really? Because unflattening will blow your mind.
I'm
Nice, congratulations.
yes. By the way, here is a project that is currently live. You can go check it out. Orion is 25% to the first stretch goal and fund my comic. Go check it out, everybody. Thank you, RJ.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
always need good new material. I don't know if you've seen the show before, but that's something I harp on all the time is the amount of reboots and recycle and sequel
Yeah.
prequel that's going on right now. What's your take on all of that?
Yeah. To me, some of what's happening in indie comics is some of the most interesting stuff because you can do creative work, and as long as the quality's there, as long as the time's there, then I think it's a good avenue. I just watched Jurassic Park 18, and though I love the original novel by Michael Crichton, like
Yeah.
that was part of what kept me reading from middle school on, was that there were books like that. It's like, well, I've kind of seen this before and I've seen that before, so there is some of that retreading that's happening. As a fan, I'd like to see some of the same stories in some ways, but there's also a part of me that says, hey, I know that it's a tough time to be making stuff because of budgets and outlandish expectations, but it would also be nice to see some new things across the board. So always there to point the way to new storytelling and new talents.
Yeah. I think, you know, a lot of really good stuff is in indie when you find it. And now,
Yeah.
and I think that Kickstarter and the whole revolution that came with crowdfunding has opened the doors to so many creators, which is a good thing, but it's also kind of a hindrance because there is so much stuff out there. You got to sift through it. Um, and I don't think, anybody should not create. I think no matter where you are in your journey, you should start creating because, again, once you start on a passion project, you only continue to push yourself to get better for the most part,
Hmm.
right? And so if you start like we started with just Marco and myself, and it was black and white, and I was lettering and had no idea what I was doing, right? To where we are now, where we have a team of 4. And we're much more polished. So I'll always start, but there's some really good stuff out there. And I feel like we're just not getting it from Hollywood because of budget reasons, because of no Blu-rays. So there's no second release with dollars to recap, but it's, I don't know what needs to change in order to start producing new material again. I would love to see new stuff. I'm not even going to see the Jurassic Park. I'm not.
I get you. I get you. I needed something to do on July 4th, so that was part of my rationale. But I saw an article yesterday that was talking about how female-led action films are really hard to market right now, or at least really hard to get off the ground because there's this fear that no one wants to take the risk on the new thing.
I think it's a writing issue with some of the female characters because I like seeing a strong female character. I like, I'm just going to use Ripley in the Alien series. That character, Ripley, could have been male or female. It didn't matter because of the character and how they were written. I don't want to see a character that has no flaws. That's why I'm not really a big fan of Superman either. It's like, he's so overpowered. He doesn't have flaws. And so I don't find it interesting. That's, and again, one of my first influences into writing and reading comics was Who Watches the Watchmen. That's what I want to read, is flawed characters that you can relate to. They might not be perfect, but they have a reason why they're doing what they're doing. The good guys, the bad guys. That to me is much more interesting than the overpowered female who can do things that she probably shouldn't be able to do. I also have trained martial arts for decades. And so a woman at Scarlett Johansson's size fighting even just a man, like, forget the dinosaurs.
Right.
But like some of the stuff that she's doing as Black Widow, it's like, I don't know, would she be able to do that against, this big bulky guy without him throwing himself down or even assisting the stunts? Because I've done stunt work. So I get it. So again, it's like you have to have that air of believability in there. And when some of these characters are so overpowered, male or female, it's like, it's boring. I want drama.
Yeah. Well, next week, or this week actually, we have a new Superman movie that is coming.
Are you going to watch that one, Jason?
I'll see it. I will see it. I'm curious, and I like James Gunn's stuff in general. But there was this scene in the previews where he loses his temper, talking to Lois Lane about the use of his power for like global conflict. And there were people that criticized it. And I'm like, that was the most interesting part to me because who wants to see just a benign, overpowered Zen master that has no flaws and has no issues with personality at all? I'm also a Katniss fan. I'm seeing some love out there for
Hunger Games. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that world. And again, I don't know, Jason, I feel like you really like dystopian fiction as well. I feel like we agree on that. And so there's some really good, I think Hunger Games was done really well. Katniss is a character that you could like or dislike. Depending on what day of the week she's going through trauma and she's acting out and she's creating love triangle for no good reason. Like, stop it.
Oh, the love triangle. That's of the things that I've taught as like a class novel, the Hunger Games is the thing that I've had the most wholesale buy-in. And I got in there before it was a movie, like right before, so it was cool.
Now, I mean, my daughter takes archery too. In fact, she's at archery camp today. I was like, when you get a little bit older, you can be Katniss for Halloween.
I love it. I love it.
Who's Katniss? Oh, just you wait.
We're almost at the point, aren't we? I mean, we should be seeing some kids named Katniss sometime soon, I think.
One of her friends is named Trinity.
Ah, there you go. There you go.
Dystopian future, which we might be coming up to really soon. Advent of AI and now in everybody's face. And it's like, you could be plugged into the Matrix pretty soon. Enjoy.
Yeah. I graduated in '99, so I'm like, I've always been in the world of like, things are ending soon, so the
whole like Y2K
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing. And then like 2012, remember when 2012 was like the
Oh,
Aztec
yeah.
Mayan one of them, the Mayan calendar only goes to 2012, so the world's going to end. And then we had movies about the world ending in 2012. All that.
Yes. Yes. That bucket list, I'm telling you, I need to get on it.
See what I mean? Okay, this is something that Jason and I were talking about before the show. So I was like, you have talked to so many creatives, and you've written a book about graphic novels and their importance in literacy and education, and you see the lights, turn on, and why haven't you written a graphic novel? That's what I want to get to the core of. So what is it? What's stopping you? Is it just time? Is it what is it? I know you got
I think
ideas in there.
I think it's the circle of like doing the research stuff that I've been in, and writing nonfiction, but it's on the way. It's on the way. It's on the list. Absolutely. Nearish.
It's nearish.
Absolutely. It's very ish.
Unless
Yeah.
you're in
But
path, and then the end is never coming, and it's even worse.
that's right.
So let
That's
me
right.
ask you this: what would you write? Science fiction, dystopian future, romance? I don't picture you as a romance writer, but you never know.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. It might happen at some point.
Hey man,
There
romance
was
sells. I'll just say that much. You
this
get
is
some
good.
money, and then
Good
use
to
a
know.
pen name. Use a pen name.
Yes, absolutely. Um, I'll be thinking on that. I'll be thinking on that. Jason Aya. Um, Probably dystopia science fiction. I love that
Yeah.
world possibilities. You can do so much. And then, I would probably do some true to life stuff as well. Some stories of growing up and becoming and that sort of thing. I think that's a space in comics that people don't always think about, but like the memoir comic, that's
Hmm.
that's been a thing. So the next natural step, I guess, would be working with someone to create a comics look at comics. But Scott McCloud has already done that with Understanding Comics, so we shall see on that. But dystopian definitely interests me. Ray Bradbury is there in my reading
Yeah.
life, absolutely
Ray
as a resource.
Bradbury, Michael Crichton, just Jurassic Park and the Sphere, and he's written so much great science fiction.
Yeah.
What is it about dystopian fiction that gets you? I'm just curious. I have my own opinions, but I'd like to hear yours.
I think the freedom of storytelling, like
Yeah.
anything can be, but then
Well,
uh,
we should totally collaborate and just make this just terrible romance where like everything goes wrong. It would be great. Anyway.
we could do like farcical romance, absolutely, the non-romance.
We could do
Um,
dinosaur romance. Romance story set. We'll fix Jurassic Park. How about that?
that's right, that's right.
We'll fix it.
Uh, I think it's also like we get to talk about life without talking about life in dystopia and
Yes.
science fiction. You read a story and you're like, oh, that could never is happening.
Right
It's
now.
it's that kind of like, yeah, that split decision of it's the future, but how future is it really? Yeah,
Yeah.
the arrival. Yeah.
That one was
Hmm.
great. That was such an interesting movie where you had to watch it a couple times to really understand. And I love good writing like that. You know,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
I aim to do that in my own story where it's like you're seeing things from issue one, you're seeing things in issue 3 and 4 that you don't really understand what you're seeing until you get further into the story. Maybe you meet a new character that's actually been in the story in the background, moving pieces around. And then it takes on a whole different, read through. So it's like you got to go back and watch the arrival again to understand what she's really experiencing in that time. Romance, the only genre that makes you want to scratch your own eyes. You feel
I
like your
can get
brain
that.
cells popping reading that stuff. I gotta add Twilight to that list. I
Yeah.
wanted to throw that book so many times. I couldn't stop reading it, which made me angry. But I hated every second of it. It's like
Edward's marble skin, you know?
and I was like, but this is what I've talked about before with like horror genres and this is interesting too, where it's like you start out as like a little bit scary, maybe a little bit campy, and then it gets really scary, and then we up the scariness, and then it becomes comedy, and then it
Mhm.
becomes romance, and then you got to reboot the genre. You got to
Yeah.
reboot it, because once you get to
Yeah.
romance, that genre is died.
Yeah, I was not as much of a horror fan years ago, but I've
No,
come around to it. I've really gotten kind of a liking for the genre that I didn't have before.
what kind? What kind of horror? Because there's lots of different kinds.
I like the psychological, but on the other span, I also like the cryptozoic, like a good monster movie if it's well done.
Mm.
Yeah.
You have a favorite? Couple favorites?
Mm, I watched *Malignant* not too long ago. That was interesting.
Oh, I
That
didn't
was an
see that.
interesting one.
What's that one about? What's Malignant?
It is about a person who I don't want to give too much away, but they
Yeah.
may or may not be like accessing some crazy different universe where something is after them, but it turns out there's a twist. Um, like it might actually be a part of their being or a part of who they are. So that's all I
Interesting.
want to say. That's
Yeah.
all I want to say. It was
Was it
one that I
good
was like,
though?
huh. It was good. It was good. It was James Wan,
Yeah.
and well executed. I found it enjoyable. Midsummer was also interesting. Midsummer was
Yes.
very interesting as like a psychological horror film.
Yeah, that one, again, you gotta watch it a couple times to catch all the things. It's the same thing, like there's stuff in the background on the walls in the hut that they're sleeping in. Um,
Hmm.
there's so much there that's happening where it's like you don't catch it the first time. Maybe not uh it's subliminal. It's subliminal, the feeling of dread that keeps, growing when you're watching that movie. And
That's
I
right.
like that
That's
one too.
right.
Hereditary too. I thought was
Hmm.
good, where it's like you're not really sure what's going on, if it's real, is it
Hmm.
in someone's head? But again, the reason why I like Midsummer. Wait, you said Midsummer, right? Did I
Hmm.
think the wrong movie? I was like, did I think totally the wrong one? I was just
With
second
Florence
guessing
Pugh.
everything I said.
Florence Pugh.
Not that one. But just like the whole relationship inside of that drama. I like that you're talking about like the coming of age, the coming of, like building up how you experience relationships in a dystopian world. In fact, I just
Mhm.
saw not too long ago, it was 28 years later.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I would classify that movie as a coming of age story. 100%.
Nice. I will have to check it out. I haven't checked that one out yet.
Have you watched? I mean, I didn't have to watch the sequel, 28 Weeks Later. I didn't. But did you watch the original 28 Days Later with
I think
Cillian
I've seen
Murphy?
parts of it. Yeah, I don't think I've committed to the series just yet.
It's pretty good. It's different because most zombie apocalypse it's the undead, right? The person has
Mhm.
died and their body is reanimated. They're not thinking. In this world, it's an infection. It's a rage infection, and the infection, all it wants to do is spread. It's kind of gross. It's visceral, like they puke blood on each other, and then you're infected because it's carried in the blood. But the first one is very much a zombie genre movie where they're trying to survive, they're trying to escape. It's people versus people, nefarious people, posing as a solution, but they're not. So, and again, it's that main character waking up in the hospital, not knowing that the apocalypse has happened, and then getting thrown into it, and then his journey. So it's very much that, we're trying to survive, we're trying to get through the horde, we're trying to this, that, and the other. And then 28 years later is that same world. It's that same infection, but
Mhm.
it's this young man. They're living on an island, and twice a day that, the tide goes down and they can get off the island and go to the mainland. And the infected don't really come out that far. They don't know that they're out there, so they're relatively safe. But they take them out there so they can understand how the world works. And so
Yeah.
it's really about this young man and his relationship with his parents, first with his dad and then with his mom, and then himself. So it's really interesting. It's just a coming of age story, but in the apocalypse. And they had one side character that was hilarious. Yeah, his name's Eric. That was super funny. And I'm glad they had him in there, but they killed him off too quick. Spoiler! So interesting.
I think you could do an interesting romance with some of those concepts of like you vomit blood on someone, and so then there's like a love connection. I think that could be.
I don't know if they had that per se, but there was people that were like, they're welcoming it, where they're like, this is the new normal, and they just walked out into the infected and were like, I'm going to become a part of, the crowd. I'm going to be part of the new normal. And so they just let themselves be infected. So interesting,
That's such a like mall teenage culture thing to do, like all my friends are zombies. I guess I'll be a zombie. Like what?
But it could be that too, where it's like my loved one is a zombie, and we want to be together forever. So therefore, there was a movie that I saw. What was it? It had Carrie Ann Moss, but that's basically the gist of it.
Oh.
I'll have to.
It's a whole like if all your friends were jumping off a bridge, would you but now I'm thinking like if all your friends were zombies, would you just want to be a zombie just because?
This is the problem. We have stuff like iZombie and Zombie High, and there's actually Disney young adult shows about zombies. It needs to be rebooted. It needs to be rebooted. See what I mean?
I hear that. Path of the Pale Rider.
Thank you. I was like, we need a new take. There needs to be something new to up the stakes, and that's what I was shooting for with zombies. But I mean, like you see that in vampires, you see that with werewolves, right? They're scary, and it's all. There's so much romance novels about the alpha and they picked me and blah blah. Like, come on, it's a werewolf. Yeah. Zombie High the musical. Please tell me that's not a thing, Dave.
It might be. It very well could be.
Mm-hmm. Andrea, I agree with you. It was a new take on zombieism, where it became more of an infection and less about the dead rising from the grave. So again, I like it when we get new stuff. Hey, there we go. I like it. We can always throw back to killer.
Boom, 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 boom. I won't sing more because I don't want you to get Zom-rom-com. Oh, that's a great title right there. Yeah.
Leave it to Lou. She comes up with great names. One of the stretch goals for my upcoming campaign, if we get there, I'm going to roast everybody a cup of coffee. I roast coffee beans, Jason. And so I will send everybody a single cup of coffee beans. And then you can come to the Tuesday morning brew and sit in the chat or come on the show and share a cup of coffee with me. But Lou I was like, I need a name for this. And she was like, Zombeans. And I was like, that's it.
Yeah. I'd like to see some new action in the world of vampires too. I feel like I saw Sinners recently, and I enjoyed Sinners. I feel like with that, I've kind of seen the vampire thing. Like I want to see it. I want to see somebody do something interesting with that.
Yeah, and again, it's like I feel like it's out there. People can do it. We have to get there. Like there's paths. So I know that there's I'm thinking zombies, but there's someone that's thinking vampires, because again, once you get to that romance, once we got to Twilight, kill it, start over.
Yeah. Now your coffee mug says "Tears of My Readers," which I love. Yes. just putting the characters to death at any point. Mine is Edgar Allan Poe shout out, one of the OG indie writers right here. There it is.
Nevermore.
Nevermore. It's got quotes. I had a Kurt Vonnegut one, and it got broken, unfortunately. But one of the OG indie people making his way, sending out the subs and doing the things.
Princess versus Zombies is fire. It is actually. Nice. I was skeptical, Tom, when I first read. This is Tom Hutchinson.
Yes, I've seen him on your show.
Yes, thank you. I know he keeps coming on. Just kidding.
Previous guest.
Always welcome on my show. I always tease him because he's like, "Oh, it's Tom again." But we always have a blast when he's on the show. And Princess versus Zombies, I was surprised because he pulled in like Disney princesses with zombies, and I was like,
Ah,
how is this going to work? And it was a blast. In fact, I was like, you have done research and you appreciate the zombie genre. And he was like, not in the slightest. I hate zombies. And I was like, you fooled me because I like the zombie genre and it hit the notes. You know what I mean? It hit the beats to keep me interested. So I was impressed that he was able to do that with not really being a fan of the zombie genre. But says the Raven, quote the Raven, nevermore.
that's right. That's right.
I
I have a Pikachu
Sorry, Tom.
question.
I love you.
Can I ask you a question about Pikachu?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so
Did it start as like I'm going to dress as this character and then you found the costume, or did the costume come first and then you were like, what am I going to do with this? I know.
Yeah,
What was
that's how
the
it happened. Because
ah
I have
okay.
two kids. They're both girls, 11 and 8. And I love Halloween. It is my favorite holiday. And so I'm always encouraging us to dress up as a family. My favorite one that we did was when we dressed up as a family of Loki variants, when the Loki, the first season was big on Disney Plus,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And my husband was President Loki. I was just a female Loki. I had like this fur stole, and it was awesome. And then both the girls were in green, and I made everybody Loki crowns out of Eva foam. And then one of my neighbors had a blow up alligator.
Nice,
So we
nice.
tied it to the top of our golf cart when we went trick or treating. So one year we were a family of Pikachu's. So I was Pikachu, the girls were Pikachu's, and then my husband was Ash, and he had Pokeballs, which he would throw at us from the golf cart while we were trick or treating. So we have fun. So that's
Nice. You gotta have fun.
where it started, and then when we did the first Slice and Dice, I was just so excited and I just wanted to be over the top shenanigans. So I was like, I'm going to dress with Pikachu when I do this. And it's stuck. So Pikachu
I
it
did
is.
bring. I brought my change of
Yes.
wardrobe, which is the doctoral
I
tan.
put
That's
it.
right. This is why you
You
do
got
the
to rock it.
thing, so you can get this. That's right. It goes
That's so
very
cool.
well over the headphones. Uh, I ordered, you order these things. So the first time I ordered one, I got like this weird, it was like a chef's hat, like the old like flat, like so it's like I can't do this because it was this wide thing. It's like that feels kind of strange. So then I got
Yeah.
this tastefully designed tam to
Yeah.
wear, just around the house.
Do you,
Um,
do you put
but
it
yeah,
on when you're like doing things?
no,
Oh, come on.
no,
Put it on when
I
you're writing
should
your
though.
story.
That's right.
You're thinking
Excellent. Thinking the great thoughts. No, it stays in the closet. I had to go find it for the show today, but it has that nice like golden tassel thing. So
Tooey.
it's, you know, that's what you
That's a
do the
different
things
hat.
for, the witch costumes.
That's awesome. I swear you should put it on when you're like doing just random stuff in your house so people could be like, what are you doing? What?
Just go to the store and be
Yeah.
like, I'm
Groceries.
thinking today.
You're like, I'm
Yes.
vacuuming, wearing my hat. You're like, that's not what you're supposed to be wearing when you're barbecuing outside. What are you talking about? It's perfect.
That's right. It works. It works.
Hey man, it's
The
one of those
flavor
things.
will be fused in.
Yes, and now then you could smell like smoke every time you walk by.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to a graduation and people are like, "Why am I hungry?"
Yeah. I
You know.
don't know. I don't know.
Also, the fun thing about doctoral robes is most of them don't have pockets. So
Oh,
yeah, it's not like a utility wardrobe. It's not like cargo pants, you put it on and it's like,
you know what though? Most women's clothes don't have pockets.
that.
So,
Well, you have like the suggestion of a pocket, right? You have a small useless pocket, or it looks like a pocket, but it's actually just extra material that's just there to make it seem as though you have. Yeah,
or they
I get
just
you.
sew like a line. You're like, why can't I put my keys in? There's no. Yeah.
That's right.
They've gotten better over the years, but the worst is getting a pair of jeans with no
Yeah.
pockets.
Yeah.
What is the point?
The suggestion of a pocket. It's like, this is where a pocket would be.
Right. Lies, I tell you. So what would you put in your doctoral robes if it had pockets?
If it had pockets, probably snacks, most likely snacks, perhaps a beverage. Oh yeah, you could totally sew a pocket onto it. You could totally do that.
And if they do, their tiny pockets. Exactly. What are we putting in here? Something
That's
for
right.
ants?
That's right. One peanut.
One peanut. Not much of a snack. It's one peanut.
True. Oh yes, confetti.
You could put it in like side in your sleeves, and that way when you're like, yay, and then like the confetti goes everywhere. That's the best idea ever.
Yeah. I had a student that asked if they could glitter bomb me at the end of this year, and I agreed to it, and it didn't happen. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't, because then you'd be vacuuming up that confetti for years.
True.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Like confetti.
That'll get you up at 7:45 in the morning. Confetti. That's right. Hey, you. Are you sleepy? Have some confetti. It's a great book birthday celebration too. Just throw the confetti for your book birthday.
There you go. I like it. I've
Mm-hmm,
never
mm-hmm.
heard book birthday. People celebrate book birthdays?
Yeah. When your book comes out, I've seen people do posts that the unopening, of course, or opening, not unopening, because that
Unboxing.
would be closing it.
Yeah. Don't
No,
close it.
so book birthday.
Do they celebrate it every year? I think people do.
I don't know if people celebrate it every year, but it's like the day it comes out the first time, maybe, or you could do like a reissue birthday or
I've
the
seen people
paperback
celebrate
birthday.
their anniversary.
Mhm.
Brandon Sarochi, who didn't come harass me in the chat today, he usually does like a sale on the anniversary for Avalon. So he'll put his books on sale on his website, which is smart.
Nice.
Yeah. He's the only one that remembers.
I have another book that I can showcase
Oh, let's show it.
if you'd like to see that.
Yes.
This is Red Vengeance. This is actually issue 2 by Chris Kemple. So another wonderful indie book there. Very much in the style of like your Bruce Timm, kind of like Batman animated kind of thing,
Yeah.
but some nice pulp storytelling kind of stuff. So just going to showcase that as I fade into this wall back here.
I was like, that's the drawback of the green screen.
That's right.
That has a very vintage look for that. Did it, when did that come out?
Just a few years ago. I actually just picked this up this year from him. I keep saying there need to be action figures, but apparently creating an action figure of your character is insanely expensive.
If you do it right, it is.
Yeah, like thousands. I don't
Where's
think he has a
Tom?
copyright date on it.
Tom Hutchinson could speak to that. He did some action figures, but you have to order like thousands of them.
Yeah, and they have to make a mold. And it's like, this is why I had so many of the same character as a kid, because they were like expensive to make a new mold for.
That's why they look the same, they just paint them different.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's camouflage character.
I have seen people do like those acrylic standees. That's, I think, a less expensive version of getting like a stand-up character.
Oh, yeah.
This is true. You could 3D print it.
True.
But in order to do that, you need someone to 3D model it for you. Yeah. I need to do what? You need to make a cake in the shape of a stack of your POTPR. Oh, wait. I mean, yes. Because we talked about this. The one thing that I don't do is decorate cakes. I can bake the cake. I do not decorate cakes. I suck at it. So maybe we'll talk.
You are a crafty person. You're a very crafty person.
Yeah. I do a lot of crafts. In fact, after this show today, I'm going over to the laser printer and I'm gonna do a test print of the new cover. Cause I don't do the cakes.
You can just laser print the cover and just put that on the
You
cake.
got it? Yeah, that's a good idea. But like these guys, right? So I'm gonna be doing issue 7. I'm gonna test print it today. Should be fine. I've done a few of these now, so issue 5 and 6. So I think issue 7 should go off without a hitch, but we'll see. I might do some other gimmies, which I will release halfway through the campaign. Now I want cake.
It's perfect. It's perfect. I don't know what time it is there, but cake is a great breakfast or lunch food.
It has everything in it, right? Flour, sugar, butter, milk, eggs. So I mean, like really, if you had them all separately, it could be like a well-balanced meal.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the icing. I feel like the cake is actually just a vehicle for getting the icing. Like it's just an excuse to eat icing. So during the pandemic, one of my go-to foods in Zoom meetings would just be to sit and eat like a container of icing and just be like, you know what? This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
God. We're clipping that. Oh my goodness. I can just see you just sitting with like a Betty Crocker container of ice.
Yeah, well, and teaching classes that are like 2 hours long in Zoom, or 3 hours long in Zoom with people that might or might not have their camera on, you gotta have some icing. Yeah, absolutely. Breakfast.
I'm over here crying. Do you eat the icing on camera to try and get a response out of people?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's part of the fun. That's part of the point. You can also eat ice cream sandwiches, and then when someone says, "What'd you have for lunch today?" just tell them a sandwich and leave out the ice cream part. Uh, these are the things. These are the strategies for healthy living.
Be living.
We're giving out terrible advice for
Terrible
food
advice
today, but it's
today.
wonderful.
Well, it'll definitely keep your students awake, though. What is he doing?
That's right.
What was it like teaching over Zoom during the pandemic
It,
or in general?
I've always been kind of like I'm interested in digital stuff. I'm interested in doing things in new ways. And so it's kind of, on one hand, it was an interesting experiment to be like, what can I do online that was also in person? I would test like different backgrounds. I actually went to my office at the university I was at the time and took a picture of the office. And so every time I would sign in somewhere, people would be like, "Are you in your office right now?" Because campus was shut down. We weren't supposed to be there. And I'd be like, "No, this is my background." And they'd be like, "Ah, you got me." Um, so that was kind of interesting, but I was teaching teachers at the time,
Right.
so that was a whole other challenge because typically they would be, if it was like an in-person, the world is fine, they would be out in classrooms spending time with actual kids in person versus online. So it was like a big Kobayashi Maru. It was a big simulation test in
Oh,
like how to connect and do stuff. But it was also back to back Zoom meeting life. And getting academics in a Zoom meeting can literally take all day. And you could still solve nothing at the end of a 5 or 6 hour meeting. It's like we just
ooh,
talked for 5 or 6 hours, and our conclusion is we should talk some more. Thanks, everyone.
ew.
Thanks so much.
Ooh.
I
That's
imagine some of them had to have catheters or something like that going on. I'm not really sure, but
It just sounds terrible to sit through a 5-hour Zoom meeting and be like, we need to do it again.
yeah, yeah. I got lots of other things done. I will say that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was. It was just such a weird time.
absolutely.
My,
And
go ahead, Jason.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, getting students like back in the living situation, that's been an interesting thing the past couple of years too. I wish. Great use of the word whilst. I like that, whilst. The camera thing, yeah. Normally, I was pretty aware of when the camera was on, but if the chocolate icing was on my face, I'd just embrace it. I would embrace it. I did have a student who was tutoring a small child online, and the child took the camera to the bathroom with them
Oh
while they were
no!
tutoring. It's like you can take a break for a second, sweetie. You don't have to take the camera with you everywhere. So,
Like when people
yeah.
forget they're wearing a mic, like a microphone that attaches to the shirt or something, so they're not in front of the camera, but you can still hear everything. Um,
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Embrace the ice thing. That's what our new motto is. Embrace the ice.
That might be the name of one of my memoir comics to come. I think
Love
that
it.
could be a great title.
See, I
Embrace
really
the
feel
ice.
you should do this. It's like, again, it's like that 28 years later where it's like a coming of age or a memoir, like, how did I get in this situation? What was my life like through some kind of dystopian lens? I love
Yeah,
those, you know?
yeah. There is something like powerfully relatable about a young character. So now I'm gonna have to check out the 28 Days series and
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. I would say watch 28 Days Later first, just so you understand the world. It's your typical dystopian, but just so you get it. And then skip this sequel, 28 Weeks Later, don't bother. Just go right to 28 years later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Embrace the Ellie skit with Embrace the Icing. I think Ellie is mostly decomposed at this point. I don't know. Although she did have a video not too long ago, but we'll have to just like get a full on skeleton and name it Ellie.
I feel like there was some Tina Fey inspiration of like sheet caking, like I'm just gonna eat a large cake just by myself because it's the pandemic and. But I think that should be like normalize that until the doctor looks at you and says, "What are you eating?" Which
Yeah.
has happened to me. I've had that happen. They're
Like,
like, there seems to be a lot of rich dairy in your system. I'm like, oh, it might be. Could it be the ice cream? I
or
don't
the
know.
icing.
Possibly.
It's one or the other.
That's
Vampire
right.
icing world or slasher.
I like it. I like where we're heading.
Is this verbal, like throw the spaghetti at the wall and see what hits? Is that what this is?
We're in a pitch meeting. That's right.
Yeah, you just throw it out the wall. Some of it will fall down, some of it will stick. Yeah. How do
It's
we
like
put it?
it's like Twilight meets Ben and Jerry's.
Please
Picture.
don't. Stay out of the Twilight world.
That's right. But you
Unless
could get good like marble flavoring, maybe.
um I mean, if you could kill off all the vampires in the first chapter, and then
That's
I'd
right.
be okay with it.
It might be time for another book promo.
Oh, show me, show me, show me. What you got? See, you have all these
I,
cool things.
I
Let me see.
yep. I have Night Care. This is by Scott Fogg. Just recently
Ooh,
picked this up as well. This is issues 1 and 2 gathered in a volume. Scott
nice.
Fogg is a Chattanoogan, a Tennessean. I lived and taught close to Chattanooga for like 17 years. So right
Yeah.
there. I know I look so young except for the beard, but I did. I lived there for 17 years.
Fun fact, Jason and I are the same age, just so you know.
That's right. That's right. That's right. If you look at the beard, I get a senior citizens discount.
I just don't have a beard. That's the thing. That's
You,
all.
you can borrow mine anytime.
I'll borrow my hair if we could just like trade for
Totally
that.
works. Absolutely.
We could try that. So what's that one about? Night care.
This one is about a daycare for superheroes and supervillains. So while the superheroes and villains are out doing their jobs, being heroes and villains, their kids have to go somewhere. And and so their kids kind of form their own story and teams and stuff, and it's fun,
But the
nice cartoony
villains
style.
kids and the hero kids, they're all in the same night care.
Oh
They're all in the
yes,
same place.
yes. So problems are gonna ensue from that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you find an affordable daycare. I don't have children. I teach children, but I don't have them. But I'm told this is one of the challenges of having children is paying people to take care of them. Apparently, it's
Yeah.
an expensive venture.
It's one of the challenges of parenting. Do you put them in daycare? I had my kids in daycare for a short time when they were little, and it is super expensive. And then they're constantly getting sick. So
Yeah.
I was working for a company that leased out copy machines, and it was like they were in daycare, but I would still have to pay the daycare when I took the day off because they were homesick. So eventually I made the switch and I just decided to stay at home. And it was right around the time of the pandemic because we went through that whole terrible time and I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't do it. Yeah. If they're available, some grandmas and grandpas live out of state. Some of them are just doing their own
True.
thing. And it's hard when, like, I have a sister and a brother. We all have kids. So then, like, where does mom go? Whose kids is she watching today? Gotta rotate
Hmm.
kids. So yeah,
The support
interesting
of
idea.
family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is an interesting one.
Cool pitch. Cool pitch. Scott Fogg is a cool guy, and Mayday Trip works on that book too. So always up for recommending. I've got one more to share before we close and
Cool.
do the fanfare at the end. I have my confetti ready.
Yes, I was like, next time you're on the show, we're gonna do this.
Of
Yay.
course.
We're
Where
gonna
does
write
one?
that
I
down.
guess surely the Dollar General has confetti. I'll
Oh,
go
I would
find some.
assume so. If not, just
Yeah.
make your own. Use a paper shredder.
True, true. But then I would have to buy a shredder.
Oh, you don't have a
So
shredder. You don't have a paper
I
shredder?
don't actually. I don't. I just rip things up. I'm cheap that way. Uh, does one invest in the shredder, or does one go through a lifetime? Yeah, absolutely. Glad to share the comics. And that's what I do. I love to share the reading materials. Um, does one invest in a shredder, or does one keep buying confetti? And by the way, speaking of sharing materials, the book is out there. The book is purchasable, but I also write stuff that's in free spaces
Yeah, share that
for
with us.
readers. Yep. So Edutopia is one of those places. I'll grab a link here if that's cool.
Digital confetti in the screen. Lou, I gotta tell you, while
Love
Jason's
it.
getting the link, um, we were decorating what gingerbread houses one year. You know, they come with all like the sprinkles. 2 years ago, my daughter spilled an entire bag of sprinkles on the floor. I am still finding
Um,
sprinkles on the floor, still to this day.
the sprinkles.
And confetti's the same way.
So I'm just
Oh, is
putting a
it
couple out there that
live in
you can
chat?
push out.
Uh-huh.
Edutopia and Middle Web are two spaces, but if you Google my name, you'll find stuff. This is the weird thing about writing research is sometimes they're in like
Hey, get out of here.
pay spaces because people get paid to publish research, but not the researcher. You know, the people that
What?
house it get paid. I know, isn't that weird?
That's lame.
Yeah, but
Although
this stuff,
we in the indie
this is
space
out
feel
there.
your pain. Yes, it's
Oh
sometimes.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely. But this is out there, freely accessible, available. There's a link to the site you were sharing earlier with the written reviews and stuff.
Cool.
And I try to be generative. I try to share the ideas, and I love the idea of sharing stuff that people can actually access. So that's out there. Lots of topics. Um, you can read them as someone who's interested in comics and media, or teacher audience is kind of the focus, but
Yeah.
there are things there. So reading films as text was actually my dissertation. That's what my dissertation was about. It was about movies.
Cool.
Love
I
some
mean, like,
poetry. I actually started writing poetry. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, like, I know we talk about comics a lot, but movies, I'm very passionate about the visual medium as well. And I think,
Yeah.
I learned quite a bit in my own storytelling just from, crafting that screenplay and learning visuals is really important, especially in the graphic, novel space because you're telling the story with words, but you're also telling the story visually. So it makes sense to research both. You've done a ton of work, Jason. Wow.
Thanks.
I'm impressed.
I enjoy
this is
what
when
I
you put your
do.
hat on.
That's right. I'll
Yeah.
put it on
Yeah,
over the earphones there.
Discovering the depths in graphic novels. It's just so great.
And you can just click that and access it at any point. It's out there, and yeah. AMLE that I'm wearing the shirt from was actually one of the first journals that started publishing some of my stuff that was more like nonfiction. But I got into writing with poetry.
I'd like to read some of your poetry, just so you know.
I will be glad to share.
Very good. And I don't think I was trying to get here. I don't think we got here, but I just want to remind people that the first page that we showed, let me go back. This one, these are written interviews with all of these numerous creators. And then if you are like me and you want to listen to something while your hands are busy, but you can't engage your eyes, you can listen here, right? So this is Spotify. So I love, this is great for car rides. You can put it on while you're driving. You drive into your Comic-Con, you can listen here. And then of course, I would like to show everybody the visual side, so the YouTube. So we're going to drop this here as well. So you all can subscribe, and 800 and some odd interviews. Oh my gosh.
That's right. Get in now. I have a couple in the editing bay, and I'm always featuring people. So if there's anybody out there who's looking to share about their work, I'd be glad to have a look at it and chat with you. They're usually about 20, 25 minutes or so, and most times I share questions beforehand, unless somebody prefers to just go off the cuff. Some people like the questions. They kind of want to know what to expect. Some people tell me they have like negative experiences with some podcasts. Like I've had comics people tell me like they've gotten on and it's not as positive, but I always try to create a positive space, as does Laurie.
Yeah.
So it's just intended to be welcoming.
Yeah, I've been on Jason's show a few times, and I gotta say it's well, we did a hat trick. We did it 3 times now. And it's a very comfortable interview. It's a great place to just talk about being creative. He has interesting questions, not the ones that you've answered 5,000 times. So I highly recommend going on the podcast if you're a creator. Absolutely.
That's why we do what we do. I'm a literacy person because I want to support storytelling, and comics is indeed a beautiful and viable way of doing that, as we've talked. So that's kind of the emphasis.
Yeah, and I love that too. I think you and I get that, where it's like the more people you talk to, you get to experience, something new, talk to new creators. What are they working on? And it's just, it broadens your own horizons. And so
yeah,
I think it's really cool you've done so much work. I'm so impressed with just the amount of people that you've talked to and all the different genres and novels and comics and just amazing wrestlers. That's awesome. I've talked to a couple of wrestlers. It's been a while though. The craziest show I did was a young woman who was a ventriloquist and a musician. Sandy Nesquit, Nesquit. She was a couple of years, 14.
That's cool.
Insane amount of talent on this child. She was great. We had a blast.
Yeah. I mentioned that I just interviewed my first professional wrestler, but and I'm always interested in that too, like exploring. I've talked with people that are kind of like carrying the legacy of like some some famous like movie people from yesterday, the days past. I've talked with voice actors, I've talked with comics people, prose people, scholars, and it's amazing how, first of all, people are generally kind when they do these things. I've only had a couple of people show up, and I'm like, you know, So that's one thing, but then the things you have in common with people, but also
Yeah.
the stories that people have that are unique. It's kind of that interesting mixture because, like, my story of getting into comics because my parents bought me comics and my dad loves them, and my mom always supported and took me to the movies and took me to meet Superman at the mall and things like that. Um, there's that part that's so true for so many people, not with my parents. They were just for their individual families, for like
Yeah.
their grandmothers or whoever they happen to be. But then the amazing things that people live through, or the things that happen, or some of the experiences I don't have. I've never been the first female to graduate from a program,
Right. And I'm sure you
but if
have
you're
lots of
academia,
questions, right? Yeah.
that's right, that's right. So it's a great way to shine the light on other people, which I feel like is worth the time.
Absolutely. I love hearing how everybody kind of got to the same place where indie and we're creating comics and it's something that we're passionate about, but the road that we took to get here is always so different. Um, and I like it. I like that about comics. There isn't a time where you have to get started or you're not. Like it's
Hmm.
kept from you. Like action movie stars. Okay. If you're an
Yeah,
actor, you got to start when you're young because they aren't picking you up to be an action movie star when you're 45,
yeah,
right? You're not
yeah.
getting in. And so, but comics isn't that way. Comics is like, it doesn't matter where you are in your life, there's a place for you here. And that is what really gets me about indie comics. Come tell your story, share
Hmm.
your experiences, talk about things that excite you or traumatize you. Me, bears, I'm afraid of bears. Um, Put in your story and then connect. It's the connection with people that really intrigues me. And then again, with me in dystopia, where I'm like, these things that could happen are now happening.
It's a musical.
The musical. Life as
People
we
are
know is
dying, but
over.
they're not dead. They're back. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I'm glad you came in today, Dave. Dave actually is part of a network, and he is on a show called The Show Offs. And so, Jason, I think you would really like his show. He has a huge comic book collection, and he does kind of what you've been doing, is showing off like really cool things that he wants to talk about in his collection. He has hundreds of
Oh,
thousands. Do you have thousands, Dave, of things in your collection? So it's really cool to kind of tune in and see what is he going to show us today. So.
that's the exciting thing about loving comics too, and loving reading, is there's always like the next thing you haven't read, the next thing you haven't found.
Yeah.
Um, there's always more, and I got one more to
Yes, I was
show.
gonna say, show us. It's
Speaking of that,
time. Ooh,
that's
what's
right.
this?
Um, this is Spectrum. So this is by Rick Quinn is the writer, and Dave Chisholm is the artist. Dave Chisholm does really interesting work linking music and comics. He's done some biographical comics about music people, and this one sort of takes you in an interesting space between music and the visual world. So it's kind of cool. It's trippy. I've enjoyed it. I bought the first three issues and have been checking that out. So there's just so much good stuff out there to read. It's
What's the name
just
of it again?
crazy. Spectrum.
Spectrum. Thank you. I'm gonna check
Hmm.
that out too. And that's one of the things I think that is challenging about graphic novels is that there's no sound, there's no music, there's nothing
Yeah.
to set the tone. And so I feel like that's a challenge for us as creators is how do you cultivate that feeling that you're missing from that music in the background? And, is it
Hmm.
funny? Is it dissonant? Like you're watching a fight happen, but they're playing classical music. Or is it like this droning alarm going off in the background while the action it sets the tone, but we don't get
Yeah.
that. So I think music, um, when it comes to storytelling, is super important. And I love music, so I'm always interested to see how people can cross that over into a 2D medium and how they explore it. So,
Yeah. It makes
awesome.
creating suspense kind of interesting, right? Because so
Mhm.
much suspense happens through music. I've seen a playlist printed at the end of a book. There was a comic called Jukebox by Needy Chinani, and that was it's for like middle grades readers primarily, but I'm 40 something and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool to like have a suggested listening on a
Yes.
page, like do a comic where you're like, for this page, you should listen to Pink Floyd or whatever it happens to be.
I wanted to do something like that. Well, first of all, there's a couple things I had in mind. I had Fish Lee on the show recently, and we were talking about doing an
Mhm.
audio version of the book. He has a
Yeah.
lot of people in his following that have neurological disorders, Tourette's, and they have ADHD, they have autism, and so people dyslexia, right? That too. So it's like they have his comic, they're supporting it, but they haven't read it because reading is a challenge. And so he
Yeah.
was like, I'm going to put together an audio format, and so as you're turning the pages, you hear the music or you hear the background noise and you hear the words. So it's kind of like a read along. So that would be interesting. But again, you have
That's
copyright
cool.
issues when you're using someone else's music.
Yeah.
So you'd have to create your own music. I like the suggested reading list. One thing that I have utilized is QR codes. So I've put
Mm-hmm.
QR codes that will take you to like a YouTube video that plays the music for what I'm trying to set the tone for. So I've done that.
Love it. Love it. If you need some awkward humming, if you need
Yep.
a YouTube video of someone doing that, just let me know. I'll be glad
How's your
to give you some
scream?
like
You
yeah.
do a good scream? I need some screaming.
I'll work on it. I will work on
Okay.
it for you.
Because that was
Yeah.
actually
It'll
one
be
thing
like
I was thinking about doing for issue 7. There is a part in this issue where it's so loud. I don't think there's anything I can do visually that would communicate what's going on in the background of this scene.
yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I was like, maybe I put together my own soundtrack of what's going on in the background and then QR
Hmm.
code it into the scene and then people can scan that and then read to understand. Because it's hard to understand the scope of everything overwhelming that's happening to a character when sound is very overwhelming if it's extremely loud. You know?
Yeah. Ariana Richards from Jurassic Park, the first movie, has a great scream. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that's how she landed the part. One of my first celebrity crushes, right there. That's right.
Ah, yeah, we were about that age when it came out, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was one of the first movies that I saw where it was like there's blood, there's people dying, there are like more mature, sophisticated things happening. Although I had also seen RoboCop and Predator by that time. So there was also that.
Love RoboCop. Set in
Oh yeah,
Detroit. Love it. From
that's
from Detroit. All right. And I was like, yeah, it's about right.
that's right. That's right.
It's funny. But yeah, that's and it's funny because when you watch the first movie and you read the book, it's still toned down
Hmm.
from, like the things that Michael Crichton had written. And it's like, um, what's his face, not Dr. Grant, the old guy.
Ian Malcolm.
Thank you. No, not Ian Malcolm, the other guy.
Oh,
Yeah, the guy that runs the
oh yeah, that guy.
see.
Attenborough is the actor.
Yeah, so now it's flipping both of our minds, the character's name, but he dies in a grisly manner at the end of the first book, and it's like they didn't do that. So
Yeah,
yeah, they toned it down. They toned it down. So, but
they
even then,
did.
in the '90s, we were watching it like, oh my god. Like, my kids had the worst time when they ate the goat, when the T-Rex ate the goat. Even though
Oh yeah,
you just see the leg, they did not take it too kindly.
yeah. Yeah. It's okay. It's only a model. It's only a model. It's fine.
Then we watched the second one, which is not a great movie, let's be honest. And when the T-Rex gets to land, and they were like, the first thing he's going to do is look for water and then food. And then it
Mm.
shows them. It shows like there was a dog. There was a dog in the previous scene, and then it was like the dog house and the chain hanging from the T-Rex's mouth.
Oh yes.
My little one was not having it. She was done. She was done. I had to actually turn off the movie and go console her. She was way too upset.
I get that. I hate it when things happen to the animals. Some of the characters I'm negotiable with. Like some of the people, it's like, hey, that guy bothers me. But the animals, leave the animals alone, T-Rex.
Sorry.
That's right.
Like,
That's
and
right.
then you read my book. I'm like, dead, also dead, also dead.
You know why they don't let 4-year-olds grill, right?
Why?
Like operate grills because the stakes are too high. Sorry.
With the dad jokes at the end of the show. That's it. That's it. We're gonna wrap it up now.
And that's the low
Tip
point.
your
Yep.
waitress. Over here. Right. What's this? Have you seen a scorpion crawling up the wall? Red,
I have not.
are you watching a scorpion?
Do you need help?
Yeah, I was like, blink twice. You know, spend way too much time trying to find the perfect music for my art reels. Same. And it's funny because a lot of times, Lou, I'll put like secret meaning if like the song has a name, you know, like the title of the name is going until we go down, and that's what I use for, you know, the title we just released for Terry Parr. So I like secretly put hints in there about what's happening in the picture. There's
Love that
literally
cover, by the way.
Red.
Oh,
I'm concerned.
I thought it was a joke because I just told a terrible joke. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to do with a
Red,
scorpion crawling on the wall.
vacate the room and burn your house down. Just kidding. Don't burn
That's
your
right.
house
Yes,
down.
we
Don't
can't.
do
We
it.
can't do. The only
I
thing I know about scorpions, I know from Indiana Jones, and I'm not sure if that's a reliable resource or not.
Gross. That movie is gross. Oh man. Okay, so moving on from scorpions.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the part of the show where Jason, tell us where people can follow you. Where would you like to send people? Are you going to be out in person anywhere where people can stalk you in person? Just kidding. But like, go get maybe your book signed or talk to you, whatever. Where are you going to
Yeah,
be?
yeah. I will be glad to tell you the thing. So the book, the graphic novels book, Building Critical Literacy and Empathy with Graphic Novels, you can find on Amazon. But also, if you don't want to support Amazon, you can check out the publisher website, NCTE. That's the National Council of Teachers of English. They have a great website with resources, and that's one of the ones you can find there. If you want to read my stuff, but you don't want to pay the 29 whatever it
Yeah,
is.
it's on sale. 29, 28.
Yeah,
It's on sale from $39.99. It's a good price.
that's right. That's
It's
right.
actually cheaper than the Kindle version. You should get the paperback, people.
That's right. There are interviews with creators in there. There are images of stuff that I've created and students have created. So fun things. But you can also get work freely accessible on Edutopia, Middle Web, some of the websites that we've shared throughout the show. The interviews are also freely available. The written ones are on the publishing site that is also linked on Edutopia, but Words, Images, and Worlds is on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify. Yeah, here are the written interviews
Wow,
at
it's so
the
many.
Wix site.
Wait, cheat.
It's like jddehartwriting.wixsite.com or something like that. Book love. So if you Google me, you'll find some cool stuff. And as far as in person, yep, there's the Spotify. It feels a little weird to say this, but I am signed on for a panel at San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, congrats.
yeah, going to talk empathy and Emanata with Jana Tropper, Kane Lynch, and someone named Scott McLeod. So I'm going to be there in San Diego, trying not to quote Ron Burgundy, San Diego. So I'll be doing an appearance there. And
Cool.
signing books and stuff. So SDCC unlocked.
Yeah, man.
First time I've never been there.
It's on my bucket list as well. I've been invited to go the last couple years, 2 years in a row, to go sit on a panel and just haven't been able to make it work. So and some year I'll get there. There's going to be, I think they got approved, a panel about writing dystopian future and an increasingly dystopian present. That was the one I was going to sit on. You should check that one out. I'm sure it's going to be good.
That sounds good. That sounds really
right?
good.
So
Great topics.
that's going to be awesome. Make sure you take a lot of pictures. I always want to live vicariously, sorry, through the people that get to go. Because again, it's on my checklist. I'd like to get there one year.
Yeah, I need to go in like my own Doctor Doom mask or something.
Ooh, are you going to cosplay? Sorry, I'm checking in
It
on
could be
Red,
a good
who
thing. I know.
is still being tormented by the scorpion. What are you going to cosplay as? Dr. Doom?
That could be a cool one. That could be a cool one. Get mistaken for RDJ. Could be a good thing.
Do you think he'd actually show up in the... People have done that. Like, what? Didn't Bryan Cranston wear his own face as a mask? What year?
I think that did happen. Yeah. Although from what I've heard, it's going to be more about comics this year. I'm not sure as many big movie studios are pushing stuff at San Diego, but I don't know for sure.
That actually has been a major complaint from some of the indie curators that have gone, is that it's less and less about comics, in that even like when you get a table and you're spending thousands of dollars on these tables, and then they're shoved into like a far corner away from everybody else. And so
Yeah. Bring the comics back.
Yeah, bring the comics back. It's Comic Con. No?
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. When does Disney/Marvel? They do all their big reveals usually at San Diego, right? Hall 8.
Usually. Yeah, that's what they're saying, but maybe there will be something. But I will be there. So that's the big reveal, at least for right now, that I know of.
Cool. I'm excited for you.
Thanks.
That's huge, man. To go sit on a panel.
It's a cool thing.
Yeah, you always see like the picture from the crowd and the people, and they have the little name on their little tent. Official. That'll be huge.
I'm gonna keep the tent. The tent is gonna be right next to the TAM somewhere. Achievements unlocked everywhere.
They just bust him out on a random Saturday, like go to class and his Zoom class and like put them both on.
Someone questions me on something and I'm like, hold on a second.
Yeah, let me put my hat on, get my little tent out. Do you know who you're talking to?
That's right. That's right. That could be great. Like, speaking of the rom-com thing, great dating real estate. I should check that out.
Jason, no! Please don't do it. Let me stop you right there. You bring those up after you get to know someone for a little while.
Thank you. I appreciate the advice.
They will be intimidated. We'll just put it that way. Unless they have your level of academia under their belt, they probably will take one look and be like, "Nope, I'm too intimidated."
Blush.
Ah. So that San Diego Comic Con is this month. It's the 26th and 27th, I want to say. 25th, 26th.
It's coming up.
27th. That same weekend, I'm going to be at a Texas-based Comic Con called Texas No, it's not Frightmare. It's Texas Haunters, which I haven't done before. And it's a Halloween-based Comic Con in July.
Nice. Some early. It's never too early for Halloween.
I think once the 4th of July is over, it's game.
Oh yeah.
Open.
I also I usually go to Heroes Con in Charlotte, so I don't do a table there or anything. But you can find me walking around, putting in a lot of steps every year there as well.
Is that one just passed or?
It's usually around like Father's Day weekend. This year it was the weekend after Father's Day, so somewhere around there in June.
Very cool. So if people want to meet you and run into you at HeroCon, you're gonna do it next year, guys. Sign up for next year.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Plan ahead. And in fact, if you want to book a spot here on the Tuesday morning brew, for people that are watching and interested, you actually have to book into next year as well. So we are booking.
Very exciting.
Thank you. January and February, I've had people pick up. April and September, the whole 2026 is open. So please plan ahead. I love creators. I love to showcase, campaigns when they're live because we usually can help, get attention and find backers, but you just got to plan ahead. Because if you come to me and say my project launches in 2 weeks, I won't be able to help you guys. So, I mean, we could get you on after, but it'll be like 6 months after.
Yeah. You're so popular. So popular.
Well, I just don't release shows as often. I think if I release them more often like you, I could have more people, but that sounds like work.
It's work. It is work. It absolutely is. I don't spend the time in taking out every or moment of
Yeah.
pause. I do some editing, but it takes some time, especially when you're doing the other things.
Yeah. The kids take up a lot of time. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at right now. It sucks. It's like July is the last full month that they're off school. They go back actually like the second week of August, and it's like school shopping. It's like they got to prep. They got to do the meet the teacher. The older one is starting 6th grade, so going into a new school, and so she's anxious about that. So it'll be 2 different schools for the girls until they're both in high school. So they're 3 years apart. So the older one will be a senior and the youngest one will be a freshman. And that will be the next time that they're in school together. So
Wild.
Yeah. I'm going to be working from my car a lot. That's what I predict. Yep. It's a good thing I can write. It's great.
Good car Wi-Fi. It helps.
Yep. It's the hotspot from the phone. That's what we're using. So
just sign into the school. Just sign into the school's Wi-Fi. Just do that.
You are so smart. I should do that. But that, my friends, is the show. Thank you again for watching. Follow Jason on all of his things. I highly recommend tuning into all of the podcasts that he releases. There's some really cool and interesting people in there, and I'm not just talking about myself. But there's a ton of people, and you might find your new favorite read somewhere in all of those wonderful podcasts that he puts together. So, Jason, thank you so much for being a historian of indie comics. You didn't know that was what you were doing, but you are now.
Thank you so much. I will accept it. I accept the honor. Thank you for titling me as such. And thanks so much for having me. It's always great to talk with you.
Absolutely. I always have a good time. And thank you for taking us on the journey of how you got here. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
My friends, next week is who we got? Matt Campbell, podcaster, comic book creator, and the spinner of the Wheel of Destiny. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to find out. So join us next week, same time, same place. In the meantime, be excellent to each other, kiss your babies, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Ooh.